Why did it take 10 years to get to the point where the resolution was finally brought to the point where there is a special representative and it is being implemented in a more serious way?
Well, you could say that this is a demonstration of the fact that despite a good language in the Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security, the implementation has been lagging or lacking, and I think that is everything from how women are represented in peace negotiations or as mediators to the fact that this phenomenon has not been tackled, and sexual violence has increased as a method and a strategy of modern warfare.
Is it because the victims are primarily women that it is under the radar of the international security establishment?
Yes, because it has been surrounded with so much of silence and shame. So women also hesitate to even report that they have been violated, that they have been raped. So I think there are many elements that explain why this has been allowed to continue. So of course it has to do with the role of women in society, but also impunity, the fact that the perpetrators have been able to walk free.
Yeah. I was in New York in September and assisted in a roundtable with Minister Clinton, where she pronounced very serious engagement to make this a priority issue. How is the United States putting it on the agenda, and are they funding the whole effort, or how are they helping it?
Yeah. They have been very helpful, and I think it's very much thanks to them that we got a resolution in autumn last year. That was also the basis for my post as a special representative. So they are really in the driving seat right now on this issue. They are pushing it higher on the agenda of the Security Council. They are themselves in the government very active. They have Milan Verveer, who is a special ambassador on these issues, and Hillary Clinton, of course, herself has decided that this is something that she will engage in. So I think that this has also silenced the opposition in the Security Council, because when I was there now, there was no open opposition against having this on their agenda, but it was instead a lot of support, I would say, in general.
Would you say that is a good example of how important it is to have women in positions of power and decision, where they bring in different sensitivities and different points to the agenda?
Yes, actually, yes.
A
different perspective, and also to cover these type of issues. Yeah, you're right.
You said that the issue is not a gender issue, it's a human rights issue, and it is not cultural, but it is criminal. Could you expand a little bit on those two statements?
I think it is a strength and progress that this has been defined as a security policy issue, that this is part of the security agenda, that women are today on the front line of modern warfare. Women are attacked, and it is done systematically, and it's widespread. And this means also that you uproot a whole village, a whole society. It brutalizes a whole society. You cannot build peace if you do this to women. And to an extent which is unthinkable, even as we've seen, for example, in the Congo. So it is part of the security agenda, the security policy agenda. It is not a women's issue only because of that. It is a human rights issue. Women have a right to their bodies, they have right to life. And I think today the military leaders have also seen that this destroys also their reputation. If this is seen as a method that military groups and the military uses, it will destroy our sort of trust in any military interventions as well. So more and more military leaders say you can prevent it, you can stop it, by also having a clear line of command where this is not, where this can be stopped.
Yeah.
And we have to believe that. We have to say that it can be stopped.
If you say that it's not a cultural issue, would that be contradicted maybe by the fact that within the military there's a need to change culture? So in a sense, cultural, not as an African problem, but more of a
like a peer pressure or military culture. Yes, I think that's fair to say, and we will look into that. We will also study the perpetrators and try to understand better the perpetrators. And we read what some witnesses said and some perpetrators said also from the criminal tribunals. And I remember, and I quoted this soldier also in my speech to the Security Council, because he said, we did such horrible things. The only way to justify it was to say that this was being a good soldier. Then you would do this. And the peer pressure was there. This is how you prove that you were a good and successful soldier. But even among soldiers, some refused to do it. So, and how come? What is it that, where exactly can you draw the line, and how can you influence so that you create a positive peer pressure? And I think that these cultures, the sort of organizational cultures or military cultures, have to be addressed.
Yeah. Congo is, of course, as we're working for a Belgian public, quite important as an issue. So my question would be, at what stage are you to tackle the problem of sexual violence as a war weapon within the Democratic Republic of Congo?
Well, I've said also to the government that if they don't go after some of these high military leaders and officers, they will allow them to take the whole country hostage. They will allow them to shape the image and reputation of the Congo. So they will describe it as the capital of rape in the world. They will describe the Congo, and this will be the picture. So they have to go after, for example, the 5 people listed on the Security Council's list, but also demonstrate to the world that they take this seriously. For the women of Congo, for re-establishing some law and order in the Congo. So I think that there is the political will. I heard a lot of good political will among the leaders. They have a good legislation, and that should also be said. They have put in place an ambitious legislation, but we now have to help them to build the capacity to implement it and enforce these laws in the Congo.
But the government of Congo is asking, or trying to ask for the MONUC to leave as soon as possible.
Yeah, and that is of course a partly sort of separate issue, also a negotiation that goes on right now, because it's not the MONUC and the UN cannot force themselves upon any country. It can only be with the consent of the government, thinking that it is helpful to have them there. And of course now there will be a negotiation on exactly how and when and how many soldiers should leave and how should this process be carried out. Unfortunately, I don't think that it will help women, and the way, for example, MONUC recently and in the last few years have worked in protecting civilians, and that means, for example, escorting women to the market. I think they have learned that they cannot be gender blind in the way they exercise the duty to protect civilians, but it has helped a lot of women. And I'm afraid that they will be more unsafe, and also that many of the NGOs will not be able to work effectively in the eastern parts of the Congo, because they have relied on transport, for example, by MONUC and the security from MONUC. So I don't see how it will help the situation of women in the DRC. But we agree that one day, of course, MONUC has to leave and they have to take responsibility for their country.